Hi everyone. Um, we're about to start a new topic, and so I thought I'd record a video for you all, which I haven't done for quite a while. So, for the students who know me well, they would know that whenever we start a new topic, I start with a banner. So, if you guys can have your books with you, and if you haven't got them with you, pause the video and go and grab them because I'd like you to take some notes as we work through this. So if you can get the big heading down for decimals, or leave yourself space for that, and you can do that later. I've got here that you're going to be copying the boards. If I'm going too fast, pause and write what's there, and then press play again when you're ready to move on. So the first part of decimal should really be a review. And we're going to work through looking at the place value today and how we order decimals based on their place value. So I just wanted to review what a decimal is. And I've said there that a decimal is just like a fraction. It represents a part of a whole. And when we have a fraction, the actual proper fraction part is less than one whole. But if we have a whole number in front, obviously that part is larger than a whole. Well, with a decimal, any digits that we have in front of the decimal point show us the part of the number that's greater than 1, and any digits behind the decimal point or on the right-hand side of the decimal point. I'm going to slide that up just so you can see that little bit because I think my head might be in the way. They show us the bits on the right-hand side of the decimal point show us the number part that is smaller than 1. So here is the part in front of the decimal point, 32. That's the part that's larger than 1. This is not read as 501 because it's on the right-hand side of the decimal point or behind the decimal point. It's 0.501, which is a value that is smaller than 1. And in fact, you probably know 0.5, which is like a half. This is very close to a half for that part, so it's very close to 32 and a half if we were to change that to a fraction. So, as I've said, I'd really like you guys to copy that down. If you need to pause, do that. I'll just move that across so that the whole thing's on. If you need to pause, get that down, and then move on and get this next part down as well. So we're going to work through some examples and clarify some information. And I'm going to go and start first of all by reviewing whole number. But at each stage I want you to copy down what's currently on the boards, and I'd like you to also then put the answers down as we go. Okay. So our next part today, as I said, we're going to focus on place value. Sorry, just popping my board down there. And we're going to start by reviewing place value with whole numbers. Now, what I have for you is either if you have access to a printer, you might prefer to print. I've got two different versions of the sheet, but you can either work on the place value spreadsheet in which you'll be able to enter digits in here straight away, or if you have a printer, then if I come back to this version, you can print the version and write straight onto that. Okay, so I'm going to be writing on the sheet, but as I said, it's very easy also to transfer the information into this here. The headings are exactly the same. So if you don't have access to a printer, just use that. All right. Bringing that back. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to write 3 times 10,000 plus 7 times 100 plus 2 times 10 plus 5 times 1 as a numeral. Now, whenever we have something that has to be written as a numeral, it's just saying write it like a normal number. Now, the reason why I've got these place value sheets is because what we're going to do is locate 10,000. Now, if you remember with your place value, you start at your units or ones, and each group goes in the ones, tens, and 100s. So we've got in the group that is the units or ones, we've got the ones, then the tens, then the hundreds. The next group that we go up to is the thousands, but we still have the 1,000s, the 10,000s, or the 100,000s. The next group we go up to is the millions. And again, we've got the 1 millions, the 10 millions, or the 100 millions. And then we go up to the billions, and then we go up to the trillions. So the first thing we're going to do is to have a look at transferring 3 lots of 10,000 plus 7 lots of 100 plus 2 times 10 plus 5 times 1. And I want us to put it on here, and then we're going to write that as a number. Now, my only problem is that I'm worried that my whiteboard's going to disappear. But anyway, here we go. So we've got 3 lots of 10,000. So we're in the thousands group, and there's the 10,000, and we've got 3 of those. Now, the other way to look at it is these are your ones. There's 1 0 for that, 2 0, 0 0 here. This one then's going to have 3 zeros, 4 zeros for the 10,000s. I put in too many now, and then 5 zeros. And then we're going to keep going up 6 zeros, etc. Okay, so that one hasn't got any zeros at the end. So I'm doing 3 lots of 10,000 plus 7 lots of 100. There's the hundreds there. 2 lots of 10. There's the 10. So I'm putting 2 into that. And I've got 5 lots of the ones. There's my ones, and I've got 5 of those. Now, I can't leave a gap here. So if there's any gaps, I've got to fill those with a 0. So you can see then that my number is going to be 30725. So my answer is 30725. 30,725. And I can read it off here. Because the 3's in the tens of thousands, it's 30,725. You read each group of 3 as so many hundred and whatever it is, and then you say this word behind it, but we're finishing in the units there. So we've got 30,725, which could have also been written as 30,000 plus 700 plus 20 plus 5. So I've written the 2 different versions of that down. Now the next one is asking us to write this number in expanded form. So what I need to do this time, I'm going to still use my sheet again, and I'm going to start at the end, and I'm going to put the 2 in there. Then I've got a 0 and a 6. So that fills in the last 3 digits. Then I've got 0, 0, 5. If I go backwards, 0, 0, 5. And then I've got a 4 there. Now I'm going to zoom that in. The first thing we want to do is review how we say a number like that. So you can see that I have a 4 in the 1 millions. So I've got 4 million. I then have this next group of 3 is 500. So I've got 500,000, and then I've got 602. So I've got 4,500,602 is my number. But they want us to write it in expanded form. So this time we're going to write it like this one here. And I would prefer you to actually write it like that rather than this form here. Okay, so we had the 4 is in the millions. Now remember, the millions is going to have 6 zeros, so it's going to be 4 times 1 million. Then we plus. The 5 is in the 100,000s, so it's 500,000. And you can see, oh, I forgot my times, sorry. 5 times 100,000. If you have a look, I had 4 and then I filled in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros. The 5's got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros that match here. Then I've got plus. Now I've got nothing in the 10,000s or the 1,000s. So the next part is the 6 lots of 100. So I've got 6 lots of 100. And then I've got nothing in the 10s. I've got 2 lots of the 1s. Okay, I'll slide that up a bit. So that is the expanded form. First question, we started with expanded, we went to the numeral. Second question, we started with the numeral and we've gone to the expanded form. Okay, the next one's asking which is larger, the 4 with the 5 zeros behind or the 59422. Now, you can probably see the answer fairly clearly, but what I'd like you to do again, if you're ever so hazy at all, we're going to put the 4 in and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0. So I'll start at the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros, the 4 in front. So that reads as 400,000. Now I'm going to start with this one. 2 at the back, another 2, a 4, a 9, and a 5. Okay, so this one, whilst the 5 is bigger than the 4, the 5 is only in the 10,000s. So as soon as you've got a digit that is further up here in the higher place value, no matter what's behind it, it's going to be your bigger number. So for us, the larger one is the 400,000. Okay, so that's your whole numbers. And then in the next little bit of the video, we're going to now transfer that information into decimals. So make sure that you have all of this, the examples with their answers written down, and that you transferred the information either onto a printed form of this sheet or you have gone straight into here. And so, for example, the first one you'd have a 3 in there. The next part you'd have a 0. The next part you'd have a 7, a 2, and a 5. So you can type the digits straight into your spreadsheet if that's what you need to do if you can't print. So now we're going to move on to the place value in our decimals. And again, we're going to use the place value table. This time, again, if you can print, we're going to use the version, but it's got the decimal points down the center. Or if you're working on the spreadsheet, then if you come down here, you'll see that the second tab over here, the second tab that says decimal at the bottom is the one you now need to be in. So if you need to work off the spreadsheet, you need to go to the bottom second tab rather than going to the first tab, which we were doing for whole number. Okay, so what I've said here is, and again, I want you guys to write this down, is that if you have a place value that ends in THS, so ends in, then that means that you've got a place value that's smaller than 1, and the digit's going to be on the right-hand side of the decimal point. So what I've even done here, if you have a look on here, we've got the same as we had before, but it doesn't go up as high as we did previously. So I've got the ones and units, I've got the thousands, it would then go up into the millions, billions, etc. But to fit this on the other side, I've chopped off that higher end. So on the right-hand side of our decimal, you'll notice then that we've got our tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, etc. And you'll have a look, it matches, other than this units here, you see the number in the bottom follows the same pattern as we had over here. So you've got the 10 in the bottom, then you've got the 100 in the bottom. Now for this one, you've got the 1,000, so it's a 1 with 3 zeros in the bottom. But because it's, instead of being the thousands, on this side, when it's a value that is smaller than 1, it becomes the thousandths. And I've put the capital TH in a slightly larger font to remind you. So this is the 10,000ths, this is the 100,000ths, etc. Okay, and then the millionths. So anything ending in that THS is going to be a value that is smaller than 1 for our place value. And that's what I've written down here. So we're going to use the same process that we did with the whole number on our place value table, but this time with the decimal value. So if you have a look, you can see that we want to write the following as a decimal. So I'm going to write 5 times 1/10. So here's my 1/10 on this side. So I'm going to put the 5 in there. And then I've got 4 lots of 1/100ths. Here's my 1/100ths. I've got 4 of those. And then I've got 3 times 1/1000th. There's my 1/1000th, and I've got 3 of those. Okay, so I've got a decimal point 543, no gaps, so I don't have to put any zeros in. It's a nice idea though to write the 0 in front of the decimal point because there's nothing up there. So if I write my answer down over here, I'm going to have 0.543. Okay, and you can see here there's not going to be a gap because there's 1 0, 2 zeros, 3 zeros. So there's not a gap in terms of stepping up with the number of zeros in those denominators. Whereas if you have a look at the next one, I've got 2 zeros here, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros there. So I'm missing the thousandths, I'm missing the 3 zeros. So when we place it onto our place value sheet here, we should see that we end up with a gap. So we're going to this time, if I had 5 times 1/10, I could also write that as 5/10. 4 times 1/100th, I could write as 4/100. So this one here, I've got 3 1/100ths. So in the 100ths, I'm going to put the 3 there. Then I've got 7 in the 10,000ths. So this is the one, if you have a look, 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. This one here has the 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. So I need to put a 7 there. And that's the end. But my problem is that I've got a gap here and I've got a gap here. So I must fill those with zeros. And again, as I said before, it's nice to have the 0 at the front. Okay, don't need to fill in the zeros at the end. It doesn't make the number any larger or any smaller, but I do, if there's something, a gap between 2 digits, then I've got to put the 0 in there. So our answer for this one is 0.0307. So those there are representing my decimal point, and that's my answer to that one. So I'm going to slide this up. Again, remember, pause if you need to write anything down and you're missing it. The last one, I've got 40. So if I've got 40, then I've got 4 in the tens. Okay, 4 tens. And then I've got 2 units. So then I've got 2 in my units. And then after that, I'll just hold that up there a bit. Okay, and then I've got 9 in the 1/100ths. So there's my 1/100ths. I've got 9 there. And that's the last, so there's nothing more to write there, but I've got that gap, so I need to fill it in with a 0. So I end up with 42.09. Okay, 42.09. Pause if you need to finish writing that down. I'm going to move to the last of our boards with our examples. Okay, so this one here now is asking us to write this decimal in expanded form. So we're going in the reverse order, but it's a good idea to first of all put this onto our place value sheet and then we can read off our place value. So we have in front of our decimal point, we've got 725. We've got 725. After the decimal point, we've got 0.31. So we have 0.31. So if I have a look at that, that means I have 7 in the 100s. Now remember that's 100 and it's in the units or one section, so I don't have to add the thousands or anything behind it. So it's 7 lots of 100. And then I write plus. I've got 2 in the 10s, so I've got 2 lots of 10 and I write plus. 5 in the 1s, plus. 3 in the 1/10, and remember you got that TH there, so I've got 3 lots of 1/10 plus, and I've got 1 in the 100s, so it's 1 lot of 1/100th. For the next one, if I line it up, I've got a 0 in front of the decimal point. I've also got a 0 after the decimal point, then a 9, then an 8, then a 0, and then a 7. Okay, so the first thing I write down, don't have to write down 0 times or 0 times, but I can write down the 9. I've got 9 times 1/100th. So I have 9, I might start under here, 9 times 1 over 1/100 plus, I've got 8 times 1/1000th. Notice there's 3 zeros there, so just be careful that you write down the correct number of zeros. Plus, now I've got nothing here, so I don't have to write down that one, but the 7 is now in the 100,000ths. So that is with 5 zeros. So I've got 7 times 1 on 100,000. And if you think about it, if it's in the first position after the decimal point, 1 0. Second position after the decimal point, 2 zeros. Third position after the decimal point, 3 zeros. Fourth position after the decimal point, 4 zeros, etc. Okay, so we were in the 5th position after the decimal point, so we've got the 5 zeros in the bottom for that one. All right, our last one. Now I'm going to show you again on the place value sheet, but I'm also going to show you how I would do a question like this if I wasn't using the place value sheet. So let's start. We're going to write all 3 numbers on our place value sheet. So our first one is 0.701. So I've got 0.701. The next one I have is 0.7. 0.7. And the last one is 0.71. 0.71. Now I'm going to get a different coloured pen so that I can cross these off and show you what I do next. But I'm comparing, oops, yep, those 3 numbers there. Okay, I'm comparing the 3 numbers here, here, and here. So what I do is I start, remember I said before that the further out you are, the larger the number is. So I want to start the furthest out. Now, each of them start here, but they all start with a 0. So there's no difference in those numbers. They're all exactly the same. If I then look at the next digit, 777, there's no difference in those numbers. Okay, but the questions ask me to write from smallest to largest, ascending order. So I'm looking for the smallest number. Now, if you think about it, here I've got a 0, I've got nothing written there, and I've got a 1 there. If there's nothing written there, it means I've got a 0. So the 1 is bigger than the 2 zeros. So it's going to be the larger number. So I've got to compare these two. These two are still the same. So then we look at the next. This one has a 1. If there's nothing there, that must have a 0. So out of these two, the smallest is the 0. So the smallest number, which we want to start with, is the 0.7. So our first is 0.7. Our next smallest was the other one that had the 0 in this second digit, because its 0 is still smaller than the 1. So the next smallest is 0.701, and therefore the largest is 0.71. Now, what I was going to say to you is if you're not using a sheet like this, you still write the numbers down and make sure they're decimal points are all lined up along with the digits. And you can do the same thing then. You can say those zeros are the same, then you've got your decimal points, must be lined up. The sevens are the same, and I can fill the missing digits if I want to make sure that I've got them all matching because they've got 3 digits behind the decimal point. I fill in any gaps with zeros. Then that's a 0, that's a 0, that's a 1 straight away, because that is bigger than these two. That has to be the biggest number. These two are the zeros. Look at the next digit. That's a 1, that's a 0, that one is bigger than that one. So that's the smallest, the middle, and the largest. So we could do that here with this one, or you can put it on your sheet. I'm going to just do this last one over here. I'm going to start with the first number, 4.0005. 4.0005. Now I've got to have my decimal points lined up. 0.11. 0.11. Decimal points lined up. 0.09. 0.09. All of my digits lined up. If you like, fill in any missing spaces with a 0 so you've got the same number of digits in both. So, look at the first digit. These two are 0, this one's a 4. Doesn't matter what happens after that. That straight away makes that one the largest number because it has a 4 and the others only have 0. So that one's going to be our largest. We're going from smallest to largest. That one's going to be up the end here. So now we just need to decide which is the smallest out of these last two here. So if we look again at the first two digits, we see that they were the same. We had the 0 there. Look at the second digit. They're different. One is a 0 and one is a 1. Straight away, 0 is smaller than 1. So that makes this the smallest, and that makes that one the middle one. So therefore, the smallest one was the 0.09, and the middle one was the 0.11. And that now has them from smallest to largest. So as I said, you could have also done that on the place value sheet. You now have some questions to do from your textbook, which are very similar to the ones that we've just been doing. Please do use those record sheets if you're finding them helpful in answering these questions. If you're confident, go for it. You don't need to worry about it. But please use the record sheets if they do help you. Thank you, and we'll see you for your next decimal lesson next period. Bye.